Oh, I got another book to read you. Anybody gonna take a bath tonight?
No.
I don't think I read you this one yet, did I?
I think you did in public.
I know I read it to you when you were in kindergarten, but I don't think you've heard it, Lily.
Yeah.
And this is about a very famous man named Mr. Archimedes. And he was a very famous scientist. And one thing about Mr. Archimedes, more than anything else, he loved to take baths. He'd fill his big bathtub with water. He'd get in it and just close his eyes and soak in that warm water. And he had 3 good friends. He had a kangaroo, and a goat, and a wombat. And he'd always invite them to take a bath with him. So Mr. Archimedes and his 3 good friends would bathe every day. And one day, Mr. Archimedes got out of that bathtub with his friends, and as usual, the floor was covered with water. And he picked up the mop and started cleaning up the water. It was the one part of taking baths that he hated, having to clean up all that water on the floor. And he started mopping, and he was in a little bit of a bad mood today, and he turned to his friends and said, "Can any of you tell me where all this water comes from?" The kangaroo said, "I don't know." The goat said, "Wasn't my fault." The wombat said, "I didn't do it." Now, Mr. Archimedes was a great scientist, so he said, "Well, we're going to do some experiments, and we're going to find out where this water comes from." So he put a little bit of water in the bottom of the bathtub, and he took out his measuring stick and carefully placed it in the bathtub, and he took his magic marker and he marked the measuring stick and said, "All right, this is what we're starting with, this much water. Now, everybody into the bathtub and we'll see what happens." So Mr. Archimedes and his 3 good friends, the kangaroo, the goat, and the wombat, jumped in the bath, and the water overflowed. And Mr. Archimedes was angry. "Which one of you 3 made the water overflow?" "I don't know," said the kangaroo. "Wasn't me," said the goat. "Wasn't my fault," said the wombat. "Well, we're going to find out," he said. "This time, you, kangaroo, you stay out of the bathtub." And again, he measured very carefully with his measuring stick and marked exactly how much water was in the bathtub, and said, "Now you stay out, kangaroo. Goat and wombat and I are going to get in the bathtub." And they did. And a strange thing happened. The water rose up in the bathtub, but it didn't overflow. And Archimedes thought about this. "This is really strange," he said. "I wonder what's causing this. Let's try another experiment. This time, Goat, you stay out. And Kangaroo, you get in with Wombat and me. So this time, Goat stayed out. And again, Mr. Archimedes measured the water very carefully so he knew how much he started with. And then he got in the water with Kangaroo and Wombat. And again, the water rose up, but it didn't overflow. This is indeed strange, he thought. And then he turned to Wombat and said, couldn't have been Kangaroo, because the water rose up when Kangaroo was out. It couldn't have been Goat, because the water rose up when Goat was out. It must be you, Wombat. This time you stay out, and we'll see what happens. So he measured carefully once more, and he said, Wombat, stay out now. Kangaroo and Goat and I are going to get in the bathtub. And they did. And the water rose up. And Wombat said, see, I told you. It wasn't me. And Archimedes thought about this. Well, I'm the only one left, he said. See, it's your fault. It's your fault, Mr. Archimedes. You made the water rise in the bathtub. This time, you get in by yourself, said Wombat, and we'll see what happens. Archimedes thought this would be a great experiment. So again, he measured the water very carefully, and his three friends stood around the bathtub while he got in, and a strange thing happened. The water rose up in the bathtub, but only about halfway. Archimedes thought, this is strange. Let me get out and measure. So he got out and measured, and there was exactly the same amount of water as when he started. He got in, the water rose up. He got out and measured. There was the same amount of water as when he started. He did that 3 times. And then he said one word. Eureka! I got it! I found it! I know what makes the water rise. His 3 friends turned to him. What is it? What is it? And Mr. Archimedes said, we all make the water rise. There's just too many of us for one small bathtub. That's why the water overflows. And it rises more when you get in it because you're so big and fat, said Wombat. Well, yes, I am, said Mr. Archimedes. But now that we know what makes the water rise, let's all get in the bathtub together. So the 4 of them all jumped in the bathtub, and the water overflowed. And then they all jumped out of the bathtub, and the water went back down, and they jumped in, and they jumped out, and they jumped in, and they jumped out all afternoon long. And when they were done, there was a big mess on the floor. But this time, Mr. Archimedes didn't mind, because now Mr. Archimedes knew what makes the water rise in the bathtub. And I'm going to tell you a sequel to that story. One day, the king wanted a gold crown, the most beautiful crown in the world, made of pure gold. So he said to his goldsmith, will you make me a beautiful crown of pure gold? And the goldsmith said, of course, but you'll have to give me the gold. So the king measured out some gold for him, couple days later, the goldsmith was finished, and he gave the king a beautiful crown. And the king looked at this golden crown and said, I think the goldsmith cheated me. I don't think this is pure gold. But it's such a beautiful crown. I don't want to melt it down to find out. So he called all of his wise men together and said, which one of you can tell me if this crown is pure gold without scratching it or damaging it in any way? All the wise men thought for a while and said, it can't be done. There's no way. And then one man said, if anyone can do it, it's Mr. Archimedes. He's the wisest man in all of Italy. So the king sent for Mr. Archimedes. And Mr. Archimedes said, yes, I can do it. But you'll have to weigh out exactly as much gold as the crown weighs. So the king did that. And you know what Archimedes did? First he put the crown in the bathtub. And he measured very carefully to see how high the water rose. And then he put the gold in the bathtub. And he found that the water didn't rise so high. And he said to the king, this is not pure gold. If it was, the water would have risen to the same height. How do you know? Said the king. Well, he said, one day I was taking a bath with my three friends. The kangaroo, the goat, and the wombat. And all of a sudden, it came to me. How the water rises in the bathtub. And that is maybe a true story about Archimedes. And he lived in Sicily, in a city called Syracuse.
Oh, I thought he lived in Greece.
Well, at that time it was part of Greece.
Oh, okay.
But it's an island
Yeah, I know where it's
south of Italy that's now part of Italy. And when the Romans were trying to conquer Sicily, he devised a very good weapon against the Roman ships. He put mirrors all the way around the harbor. And the sun shines very bright in Sicily. So when the Roman ships sailed into the harbor, they focused all the mirrors on the ships. And you know what happened to the ships?
It blew up.
They didn't blow up. That's very close.
They caught on fire?
They caught on fire. See, in those days, sails were made out of cloth, like your mom sews. So they caught fire very easily.
They made wood, too.
And they're made of wood, so the ships caught fire. But the Romans figured this out, and they attacked at night when his weapon was useless. Okay, I think that's enough Archimedes for now.